I think one of the best customization aspects in Splatoon is the gear and the associated abilities that come alongside with it. Abilities have been around since the first game, and they change how you play a weapon based on what abilities you're using. Each piece of gear has one main ability and 1 to 3 sub-abilities. A main ability is worth 10 ability points, or AP. A sub is worth 3 AP for a total of 19 AP on a piece of gear. I really like how you're able to mix and match different values in order to get just the right amount of what you need. But not all abilities can be used as sub-abilities. Some are main abilities, exclusive to hats, clothes, or shoes, which brings us to the topic of today's video, Thermalink. Thermal Ink is a shirt-exclusive ability first introduced in Splatoon 2. Thermal Ink reveals the location of the opponents in kid form after being hit by the main weapon for 15 seconds, with an outline becoming more or less visible depending on how far or close you are. It honestly sounds pretty good at first glance, but there are a lot of asterisks to this that make you really want to reconsider the ability. At the launch of Splatoon 2, it only lasted 6 seconds. In version 1.4.0 on October 11, 2017, Thermal Ink got its reveal radius extended by 23%. In version 3.0.0 on April 25, 2018, it got its duration increased from 6 to 12 seconds, and again in 4.3.0 on December 5, 2018, increasing the duration to 16 seconds. That's how Thermal Ink was left in Splatoon 2, and as of Splatoon 3 version 3.1.1, there hasn't been any changes made to it, and even after only buffs, it struggles to find a use. First, it's limited to the main weapon, and not the sub or special, which sounds fine, but that means with the really short range, you're unable to take advantage of it, because if they're close enough to activate it, you're probably close enough to kill or be killed. But even longer range weapons, like E-Liter, it isn't useful, because you hit someone with your main weapon, you'll most likely get the kill. Another big limitation is you're only able to see enemies in kid form. Yes, there are some weapons like splatanas and chargers that spend more time out of ink than in it, but others like rollers, blasters, and splatanas spend most of their time hopping in and out of ink, so even if you tap them, you might not be able to track them as they spend most of their time swimming. As well as the distance aspect, players only appear 150 DU, or distance units, away from the user. Basically, if the player is tagged closer than 3 training room lines to you, the effect doesn't apply at all. My first thought after hearing these limitations is blasters. Blasters would love this, because when they don't one-shot kill, the enemy might run away to hide somewhere else, so the tracking of Thermal Ink can help you chase them down. Here, I think, is the biggest caveat. Indirect shots from blasters, sloshing machine, explosher, or tri-stringer do not count. I think this is a dumb restriction. These weapons love doing chip damage, and because of that, they'd love to track where their targets go. But because of this limitation, they're unable to. Alright, so what weapons actually want to use Thermal Ink? The weapons that utilize Thermal Ink the best are ones that have mid to long range and don't kill quickly, stuff like Jet Squelcher and Splatlings. Though in Splatoon 2, those weapons would rather run other abilities. Jet Squelcher would like to run Special Charge Up and Sub Power Up, while Splatlings want to stack as much run speed up as they can. The only weapon that actually wants Thermal Ink in Splatoon 2 and 3 is Bloblobber. This weapon does not require a ton of mandatory abilities, and because it will be hitting random blobs at constant damage from a distance, it's able to keep track of where the enemy is going. Switching over to Splatoon 3, there's only really one new weapon that can sort of argue the use of Thermal Ink: Snipe Rider 5H. Snipe Rider doesn't need too many abilities. It has long range, and each of its shots don't kill from full health. But realistically, that's kind of it. With the removal of main power-up, some mid-range weapons like Dually Squelchers and Bamboozler 14 Mark I don't hate Thermal Ink, but it's probably better to use more of a good ability like Special Charge or Swim Speed Up. Another downside to the ability is opportunity cost. Since Thermal Ink is on shirts, that means you're unable to run it in combination with Ability Doubler, Haunt, Ninja Squid, or Respawn Punisher. Lots of shorter range weapons like Ninja Squid and Haunt, and lots of longer range weapons like Respawn Punisher. Well, Ability Doubler's too niche to be used consistently. Even Haunt gives the Thermal Ink outline for players that splat you permanently, and if you splat them back, you get the effects of Respawn Punisher, without getting the negative effects too. This could be really suffocating in the gear builder, because there's a lot of better abilities to consider. I want to mention some other small quirks of the ability. Bomb Defense Up DX, formerly Cold-Blooded in Splatoon 2, affects the tracking range of Thermal Ink, so it gets even worse if someone stacks the ability. I mentioned blasters and other one-shot weapons don't get the effect of thermal ink. That's not entirely true. If an enemy is surrounded by ink armor and there's enough damage to pierce through, it applies, but specials like Baller, Booyah Bomb, Reef Slider don't get affected by it at all, while the effect still applies for specials like Inkjet or Zipcaster. But this is inconsistent since you're relying on situations that don't happen all the time. The replacement for Bomb Defense Up DX, Sub-Resistance Up, is not resilient to it, so it makes it a little bit better now. And for whatever reason, the training dummies in Splatoon 3 aren't affected by thermal ink, while they are in Splatoon 2. Weird. So the ability is seen as a meme in the community, and it's rarely useful in anything. So I have a couple ideas on how to change it so it could be a little bit more useful. First, I would make the indirects of weapons like Blaster, Sloshing Machine, X-Splasher, Tri-Stringer, etc. count towards activating thermal ink, but in exchange, I'd reduce its duration to 8 seconds. I feel like knowing where someone's location is a very powerful tool in a team setting, but limited in others because of a lack of communication, since thermal ink only applies to the user and not the whole team. And I feel like 16 seconds of tracking might be overkill if more weapons were able to use it and constantly reapplying the effect every 16 seconds as long as they tap them at least once. Last thing I would change is the DU limit. I would just remove it. That would help shorter range weapons like blasters or shorter range shooters. The changes I suggested would not only make the ability more useful on more weapons, but not too prominent or be too centralizing. I find underutilized abilities in the Splatoon series fascinating, and if there's a demand to do another video like this, I will. Thanks for watching. I have a lot more Splatoon content planned for the future. Make sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitter for updates about the channel. I will see you next time.